It's time for Windows Weekly. Mary Jo Foley is here. Paul Thurrott is here. I'm here. And we're going to talk about Xbox Live TV, if that's what you call it. Microsoft buying Yahoo again? And what's the problem with the Metro UI on Windows 8? It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Windows Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 229, recorded October 6th, 2011. What's it called and what's it cost? Windows Weekly is brought to you by Go to Assist Express. Go to Assist Express by Citrix puts IT professionals in position to do what they do best. Access, diagnose, and resolve. Try it free for 30 days. Visit gotoassist.com/Windows. And by the Newegg Gadget Trade-In site powered by Gazelle. Trade in your used gadgets today at newegg.com/trade and receive a Newegg gift card. That's newegg.com/trade. And by audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show that covers the latest from Microsoft. Joining us right now, the author of the All About Microsoft blog from her place in New York, Mary Jo Foley, allaboutmicrosoft.com. Hi, MJ.
Hello.
Ooh, you sound so deep and full and rich.
I wonder why. I think
Look at
it's
that.
this new microphone, perhaps.
I'm so glad that came, the Heil PR40. Thanks to Bob Heil for providing that from Heil Sound. Yeah, do you like it? Can you tell how it sounds? Or you probably can't hear yourself.
I can tell how it sounds. It's taken over my entire apartment, though.
She actually
like the
just walks
microphone
around with
that
it
ate
talking
you
into the
up.
microphone.
You know,
Hello, kitchen.
when I first got this microphone, I won it at the first podcast expo. And it was the first time I'd ever used one, and I kept going like this. Boy, I really like this one. So we'll understand if you do that a little bit.
Yes.
You can just take that one home, Leo. Thanks.
Yeah,
Nobody
now,
wants to use that anymore.
Paul Thurrott is also here from the SuperSite.com, SuperSite for Windows.
Hello,
editor.
sir.
And he's about to leave for London. What, you're going to London this afternoon.
I am.
What's that all about?
I'm just going to London.
You can't get good
what?
tea here?
Seriously, I have like 6 or 8 weeks straight of travel, and I have a friend who had just some personal problems. Is really the only way to say it. He said, "Look, normally they go away with us on vacation. We didn't do our home swap this year." He said, "What do you think about going to London
and staying in a hotel?"
Yeah, I said, "All right, let's do that."
Good.
We're going to take the train to Paris as well, just to do that.
Oh, fun.
Just to do it because I wanted to do that this summer.
Will you do the Channel?
Yeah,
Oh, I've always wanted to do that.
I know. I've never done it, so
Yeah.
I said I even thought, I'll do it. We'll just go and have lunch and then come back.
We're having lunch in London. I think you should have
get
said that. Oh, for Paris. We'll have lunch in Paris and come back.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's a few hours. I mean, it's not.
it's a couple hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll miss. Are you going to do the show from London?
No, so I contacted Eileen. We're going to do the show next Friday, so I'll be back.
I'll be on vacation next week, so
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we're going to
so
flip-flop. And I guess, is it Tom, Eileen, is it Tom? Who's doing the show next week? Tom or Ayaz? Or who? Tom. All right. We have a deep bench now.
good.
I know. We have a deep bench. It's good. We can. I can leave. I can actually take a few days off. I'm so excited. So we had some somber news last night. We were doing triangulation with Kevin Marks, former Google employee, former Apple employee, guy who worked on the QuickTime team, and the chat room had started scrolling by. Steve Jobs has died, and there was a little scare. There have been 2 scares in the past, and so I didn't believe it immediately. But then the AP reported it, then Apple reported it, and we spent. Let's see, that was about 4:30. We spent the next 3.5 hours.
It was really that early. I'm surprised I didn't hear about it. I didn't hear about it till this morning. I think it's just because I've been sick this week, so I haven't been really
offline because Twitter actually went down.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you couldn't. Twitter was offline for about 45 minutes because of the traffic. And again, of course, if you watch TV, you couldn't miss it. Yeah.
I woke up this morning and my wife was exercising in front of the TV.
Yeah.
So she was doing one of those things where she kind of went over and she said, "Hey, Steve Jobs died." And then she came back, and I thought, that's really not the way I want to hear that.
Yeah, really. I've been choked up. It's been everything I could do not to drive down to Cupertino and stand outside One Infinite Loop.
So
I didn't expect that. To be honest, I mean, look, this is something we knew was going to happen.
Yep.
Should have been prepared.
I was telling Mary Jo, because of the way I found out, I felt like I had to write something immediately, and it was 7:30 in the morning. I've been sick. I really cannot collect my thoughts very well. So I thought, well, I just collected quotes from other people, basically. But I guess what I would just do is fall back to something I had written, back when he announced he was leaving Apple in August. And I said it right after I was out there, right? Remember, it was the day I left.
August 24th, yeah.
And I said, I got a bunch of emails from people, and they were all over the map. And of course, I saw what was happening on Twitter. But this is a sort of an ugly little segment of the internet. I know you're surprised to know they exist, but there are some petty, kind of snippy people out there. And I just wrote something in WinInfo where I said, look, love him or hate him or whatever, you need to understand that this guy has influenced our industry more than anybody, and that you can't overstate that. And whether you use an Apple product or never will, you have been influenced by this guy, and that's why he's important. And I'm sorry if you don't agree with that, but, that's the way it is.
Some people still think this is a football game, and you have to pick a team. And even if the opposing team's quarterback passes away, you just ignore it. But
no, it's not like that at all.
And there would be no personal computer industry if it weren't for Steve Jobs. So if you love Windows...
or if there was, it would be nothing like the one we have.
It would be very different.
Yeah.
So
the flags are flying at half-mast at all Microsoft offices today worldwide.
Sure.
So that shows you,
Even Bill Gates said, what did he say? We'll really miss him.
Well, Steve Jobs said, look, we need to get over the notion that for Apple to win, Microsoft has to lose. I mean, he came at it from the opposite direction as well.
So I don't know if there's much to say that hasn't been said. If we did we made a special, did we not, out of the material from last night? And Eric Lanigan, who took over immediately after, and he does. Eric has 3 days a week, does a talk show, late night talk show at TWiT. He takes over the center stage over here, and just by himself. I mean, the place is deserted, and I think he went on. How long did Eric go on for? How many?
4.5 hours.
4.5 hours. And it was just people calling and talking, and I think it was almost. I think the whole tech world was kind of going through this mourning phase. So nothing more to say, but we do have that video, and if you would like to have a private moment, there was a lot of stuff on TWiT last night, and you can go back and watch it. And Eric did a great job last night. I thought he just.
No, I'm not surprised to hear that.
Yeah. Anything more to say? I mean, it's been said so many ways in the last 24 hours. Maybe that's somebody with something who'd like
late breaking news.
I think it's late breaking
news. Let me ask you one thing in the Microsoft context. Microsoft is struggling a little bit, trying to find its way in the post-Bill Gates era.
Sure.
And I think even more than Bill Gates was Microsoft, Steve Jobs was Apple.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Listen, I've said this before. I was interested to read someone this morning, and all of the stuff that I read said basically the same thing that I said when Jobs left, which is this. There's you mentioned deep bench at TWiT, and of course there's a deep bench at Apple as well. But, I really don't feel that solves all your problems. If you have a bunch of people who knew the guy and knew how he thought, supposedly, and their thought is, well, I'll just do what Steve Jobs would have done, that's never going to succeed, ever. And Apple is obviously in good shape, great shape, and will continue on as a very successful company for a long time to come. But it's impossible to overstate the special uniqueness that is lost now. And there's no one at Apple, no matter how well they knew the man, who could ever look at any given situation and know how that guy would have reacted to that thing, whatever it is. I mean, he's just a unique person. So I think there'll be some period of time where there are products coming down the pike, a new iPhone, a new iPad, new MacBooks, and so forth, that the Steve Jobs stamp was on them. He was involved in that. And eventually that kind of passes. And I think any Apple fan who is honest with themselves would be facing the future with some nervousness, because there is no following up this guy. There is no collection of people who can do what he did. At Microsoft, certainly there was no one that has ever followed up Bill Gates that we've talked about.
Right.
So I think that needs to be a concern. Hopefully Tim Cook can put his own stamp on the company. I think, this most recent event happened a little too soon, so it was very much like a Steve Jobs event. But I think over time they need to...
In hindsight, you could, looking back at the video, it was actually quite somber. I thought at the time, why are they so... We couldn't see the video. We were doing the thing, but I saw the video later. I thought they seemed depressed, and of course,
the fact that they were able to do it at all is pretty impressive.
I agree. I think that they knew that it was not, that he was declining probably.
Well, he must have been in the hospital, and those people. It would have been okay if they just released the stuff and didn't have an event.
Truthfully, with what they released, that's probably what they should have done. To be honest.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I'm just saying, people would have understood it.
Yeah, and there was in the video. I didn't. Again, we weren't watching video because I didn't stream it. But later we went back and saw the video. There's a seat at the front row on the aisle that says reserved with a black thing over it. In hindsight, it's pretty obvious what was going on. I mean, Eddie Q was pretty upbeat. Some of the other guys were upbeat, but Phil Schiller and Tim Cook, who obviously knew, were very downbeat. And now I understand.
Yep.
Now I understand. I think no matter what you say, and you can have, somebody, Guy Kawasaki, I heard Guy Kawasaki say on CNBC, hey, I was in Disneyland this summer. Disney did pretty well without Walt. Walt was able to...
Well, but that's not true, by the way. Walt Disney almost got taken over in the 1970s. Walt Disney is, in fact, an example of what happens when you try to do what Steve Jobs, or in that case, Walt Disney did. I mean, that's exactly what those people did. They walked around saying, well, what would Walt do?
Right.
Walt would have liked this decision. Walt would have liked this decision.
It hobbles
and the company almost ground right into the, the ocean.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's exactly what will happen. There's only one Steve Jobs. There's no way Apple is Apple. When Steve left for 12 years after he was fired, it almost went bankrupt. They've got momentum. They've got the biggest momentum a company's ever had. They're right at their peak. They've got products probably for a few years. They've got a product roadmap. But ultimately,
I think they're in great shape. I look at all of their products and I think, it really doesn't matter what happens, right? If Windows 8 is as good as it can be and takes over a certain part of the tablet market, if Windows 8 is as good as it can be and they control as much as they do with the PC market, if Windows Phone takes off as much as people think it possibly could at the highest end of the spectrum, Apple is still firmly ensconced in all of those markets, is going to make billions of dollars a year. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Apple is in awesome shape, but that's not changing for the foreseeable future.
But you make a really good point, which is the thing that's going to be the most dangerous to them is that what would Steve do? Question that
they really desperately need not to think like that.
Yeah.
They need people in. You have to think that Steve Jobs picked this team for those people's skills, and those people need to use those skills and think the way they think, not try to think the way that Steve Jobs thinks, and they'll be fine. Yeah. I think the future.
And I think it's possible, right? I mean, look at Microsoft. I don't hear people ever say, what would Bill have done if he were still here as a day-to-day guy? I mean, granted, he's the chairman still, but, people don't try to recreate Bill Gates. They can't. I mean, Steve Ballmer runs the company very differently than Gates, whether you agree that he's doing it better, worse, or whatever. They're putting their own style on it there.
Sure.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mary Jo, did they, as a corporation, make an effort to somehow transcend that? Was there a conscious, let's move on kind of a thing?
I don't know if it was a conscious thing so much. A lot of people, it came up a lot when they hired Ray Ozzie to be the new chief software architect. And a lot of people were saying, he can never be Bill Gates. He'll never fill his shoes. And Ozzie himself said, I know I will never be Bill Gates, and I'm not trying to be Bill Gates. Right. So I think that was a good and a very healthy way for him to react and for the company to kind of move forward and move on.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Well, I mean, we got other stuff to talk about, but It was a very hard day yesterday, I have to say.
And by the way, I'll just state for the record, I'm looking forward to my first email complaining that we talked about Steve Jobs as much. I can't wait to hear from someone about that. That's a topic I'm very interested in hearing about. So please do send me that email, please.
On the other hand, I got plenty of email. I was actually shocked. I got emails from people saying, "Why are you praising this evil man?"
Yep.
I mean, I was really kind of shocked at
I know.
There's the depth of approbation that a small, tiny minority feel.
Exactly. Well, it's for small people.
Small people.
Look, I mentioned this to Mary Jo, I think, email or on Messenger or something. This is my Larry Bird rule that, people who are really good at one thing tend not to be very good at other things.
Oh, yeah.
And, fair enough. It's fine. But, that's part of the personality disorder or order that he had that made him the genius that he is.
He was very focused.
Yep.
And that meant he didn't have a lot of time for chit-chat.
Absolutely.
So to speak. Let's take a little break. We're going to come back. Xbox Live is here and more. Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott are also here. Windows Weekly is on the air. Brought to you today by our friends at Gazelle and Newegg.com. I think you know Newegg, don't you? If anybody who buys tech stuff knows all about the great Newegg. Newegg is the site for buying tech. 84,000 products, 1.9 plus million reviews of these products. Great images. It's just a fantastic place to buy with always the best prices. And now you can underwrite your Newegg habit. And I do admit have a Newegg habit with the Newegg trade-in site powered by Gazelle. Go to newegg.com/trade-in. Take a look at this. This is a great idea, for a company that's selling new technology to say, hey, before you buy, come here and trade in your old stuff. Not only clean out your closet, not only get rid of stuff and recycle it sensibly. You shouldn't just throw electronic stuff in the trash or even the recycling bin. It needs to be recycled properly and get a little money out of it. So here's how it works. You find the gadgets that you're getting rid of. Go to that gadget drawer or the gadget closet. I have entire gadget rooms. Fill in the form on newegg.com/trade. You can get amazing prices on all sorts of stuff. The HTC Sensation 4G, $195. Motorola Droid Bionic, $290. The Kindle 3G plus Wi-Fi, $43. Digital cameras. The Nikon D90 with the lens, $171. This will support your habit. That's what I'm saying. You throw it all in a box. They pay the shipping. Then they give you a Newegg gift card. And you can buy new stuff. And, it takes some of the burden off buying new stuff if you've already cleared out the old stuff and that the new stuff is going to get responsibly handled, maybe even paid for. I once asked our chat mod, Dan, because he's always got the latest thing. I said, Dan, how do you do this? He said, I'm very careful not to keep the old stuff. I always sell it before I get the new stuff. That's the key. Gazelle and Newegg. What a team. Newegg.com/trade. The Newegg trade-in site powered by Gazelle. All right. Windows Live. Let's talk. Xbox 360. Xbox Live TV, which we were talking about last week and speculating about big time, is here.
Well, sort of.
Oh, it's not here.
So actually, I have a question for Mary Jo.
I know what you're going to ask me.
It's been very confusing what this thing actually is. But I spent a tremendous amount of time yesterday trying to figure out the answer to this very simple question.
What the heck is it?
No, what is it called?
Well, that's a start.
The name?
If you can name it, then you at least have a handle.
If you actually look at their press release and their press materials and the video, they don't ever actually say it's called Xbox Live TV or Xbox TV or...
They do say it's transforming the console experience.
Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
Well, what's it called? Does anybody know?
Well, okay. So when they first talked about it at E3 in the summer, they called it Xbox Live TV.
Okay.
Let's watch the trailer and see if this tells us anything. This might explain, Paul.
It's time
It's time
for more.
for more.
More of the entertainment you love.
Okay.
When and how you want it.
Courtesy of
We're
this new
talking
service called.
TV on your terms.
It's TV on your terms, Paul.
TV that listens to what you want.
But
Rewind.
you could talk
and
to it.
responds to what you ask.
Xbox.
And do I have to
Play.
pay for it?
You can
It's
tell it
time
to
to
play.
search without struggle.
You could search without
But is there
struggle.
a cost?
Xbox Bing to Fast and the Furious.
I can't wait
Xbox
to say
funds it.
Xbox Bing.
But how much does it cost?
Xbox Play.
It's time to watch.
Paul, you're
Without
asking the wrong
Paul.
question.
Xbox. ESPN.
It's time for technology to get out of the way
Xbox.
and
What's
make
it
room
called?
for something
Xbox. How much? Xbox. Talk to me.
better. It's time to bring people together,
Via the service called.
to share in the moment.
Xbox Live TV.
Now, a TV that watches you. It really reminds me of 1984.
It's time
She said
to
Xbox
discover
Live
more of
TV.
the entertainment you
Okay,
enjoy.
good.
Well, but that's live TV, like playing live TV.
Oh, she said that was a search.
It's like a live television stream.
It's time to
It
say hello.
says
to the
Xbox
best
Live.
in TV,
Coming to Xbox Holiday
movies,
2011.
Right, Xbox Live is an existing service.
and music.
So just the new
This
Xbox.
changes everything, and
Oh,
it's about
Paul, it changes
time.
everything.
Because TV is
called?
more amazing.
TV's more amazing.
Are the controller.
Xbox Play.
So what it
Anybody?
requires Connect.
Yep.
It looks
No,
If you
like
want
it's
the
just a
voice.
new interface to TV.
I don't think it requires Connect. I think Connect gives you voice control and motion control.
You know what's going to scare the hell out of people is when Dad comes in with a bowl of popcorn and Xbox says, "Oh, let's add Dad," and then because it knows who's here,
Right.
right? Because that's what it does in the
Right.
Connect games,
Or
right?
Dad walks in the room and it switches off the R-rated movie instantly.
It's the new. That's what we need.
But you see what I'm saying? There's no identification of this service or how we're going to pay for it. You know, in other words, you can contact Verizon Fios and see about getting HBO for 50% off. Right. But
So they're going to offer it to Fios. They're going to offer it to
if I have
Comcast.
Fios, do I just get it for free?
Comcast says we are continually evolving the television experience. So it's Xfinity. You saw the HBO Go. So they're doing.
Here's the conversation I expect to have with Verizon Fios. I would like to watch TV on my Xbox. And they'll say, okay, what's it called? I don't know what it's called.
Xbox Live TV.
I just want to pay for it. I assume I have to pay for this.
They're going to team up with Bravo, Comcast, HBO Go, Verizon Fios, Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you don't have to have Connect. It will be worldwide, which is good. BBC
I don't think you
in
have
the
to have
UK,
Connect. I think it just
Telefonica
enables
in
all that other
Spain,
stuff.
Rogers On Demand in Canada.
I think the reason we don't know a lot about this is because it's so complicated. They couldn't actually make sense of it in a press release. I'm not being facetious. I think there's so many different deals and ways you're going to buy it.
So the price
Let's
may
role
vary.
play for a moment. Let's say you and I were going to write a press release about this thing, whatever it's called. I mean, wouldn't the opening line say, Microsoft today announced it will soon offer a service called
Something.
whatever it's called
It will
to
cost
customers
something.
of its Xbox 360 video game console? I mean, wouldn't that be how you would open up a press release like that?
What if they let the partners call it what they want, though?
Yikes.
You know, Microsoft's been trying to get in the set-top box business for a long time to partner
Yeah.
with cable companies to say, instead of that crappy set-top box, will you please use an Xbox and all the features you can add, and you've been wanting to do interactivity, you would want to do on-demand, you store and forward, all of this stuff. Now we have this powerful box. And always the reason that the companies didn't do it is it was so expensive. But maybe maybe things have changed now. Everybody has an Xbox 360. What if it's just apps on the Xbox? What if it's just an interface?
Well, I'm actually
Some people
I'm sort
think
of
it's that,
hoping,
right?
Right.
Well, you can picture two ways of going with this,
Well,
right?
I'll show you this, why I think that. One of the partners they mentioned in this list, the Today Show. Not NBC,
Right.
the Today Show. Well, that sounds
but
to me like there's a Today Show app.
Well, maybe the Today Show could be streamed to the Xbox regardless of whether you had cable service. Like that's something that would happen as for free.
That's what I'm
as part of
thinking.
your Xbox Live Gold subscription.
That's what I'm thinking. ESPN.
But I'm thinking you're not going to get HBO unless you're already paying for HBO via Fios or Comcast.
That's how HBO Go works. With HBO Go, they said, all right, who's your provider? You log in using your Xfinity account or your Verizon account, and then it says, okay, well, you're paying for this, so we'll show it to you.
Yeah.
I guess
The other thing that's making this confusing, I think, is I think we still don't know the whole story, and I think there are going to be some providers that actually have media room IPTV as part of this bundle. So you're going to get like the DVR playback with those particular carriers, but not everyone's going to have that.
So it's kind of, it's like to me, this sounds more like a Roku than it does like a set-top box.
Well, except that if you are a customer of Comcast or Fios, two of the cable companies we know are involved, it seems like you're going to get additional, maybe on-demand style capabilities that go out over IP.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Over the Xbox 360, which would be great. I mean, I don't know that it would completely replace using that terrible cable box we have, but it would replace some of it, and that would certainly be okay.
I'll grant you it's a crappy press release, and it leaves more questions than it answers. But it's filling in some, like Facebook's on here, AT&T is on here, Netflix.
I don't even know what that means.
I know. There's so many different people wrapped up in there.
There's a little note really early in that video where it says Light UI coming early 2012. So there's going to be a dashboard update probably in November that delivers this service, whatever it's called. But apparently it's not going to include that Light UI, which is that Windows 8 looking UI. So I don't know what the heck's going on here, and I don't like being in this position. I don't feel able to communicate effectively what the heck this thing is.
Well, you know, Don Matrick, president of Interactive Entertainment Business at Microsoft, explained that combining leading television entertainment providers with the power of Kinect for Xbox 360 and the intelligence of Bing voice search will make TV and entertainment more personal, social, and effortless. I think that's all you need to know.
But how much is it going to cost, and what is it called?
No, Paul, if you have to ask how much it is, you can't afford it.
I see.
Well, you know, the other funny thing that they wouldn't talk about yesterday, because I tried to ask, was, you know, what's powering this, right? Like, I kept getting tips. Silverlight is what's making this work, like the streaming media capabilities of Silverlight. And I said, so is Silverlight powering this? And I got a no comment.
You know what this sounds like to me? A premature announcement. Like all the deals aren't in place, the structure for how this work isn't in place, so they just announced it. And,
Leo?
and the details will be filled in later.
Leo.
Yes?
What's it called?
And how much is it?
I just need to know.
Well, and you know, it implies that you actually need a Kinect, but then, Paul, you said you don't think you would have to have a Kinect?
I don't believe you have to have
Kinect.
Kinect.
The voice, right? You can control this
You need it for voice control and for motion control.
I think
still
that
use it with a
they need to downplay the TV that knows who you are angle.
I agree.
It's a little 1984.
They should play up the "this is what it's called" angle.
I think they should play up you. I think they should play up the "you are the set-top box." You know how they do "you are the controller."
Ooh, I like that. Yeah,
I want to put this thing in my house, but I don't know what it's called.
It's called Xbox Live.
TV.
With TV. TV on. But it's maybe it isn't. Maybe it doesn't have a name. Maybe this is just an enhanced Xbox Live feature set. Like if, for instance, you had a Google TV and Google put the Android market on it, they could reasonably put many of these names on that list, saying, well, now you can watch Xbox or HBO Go, and you can watch this and this and this, and it's still Google TV. So maybe it's just Xbox Live, and we're going to add some more features.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, Xbox already has video services, you know, in the dashboard. But if Mary Jo is right, and I think she is, this is going to vary wildly depending on who your provider is.
Right.
So some people are going to get this very basic set of services, you know, a lot of the web stuff. And then some people who are on Comcast or Fios or whatever in the United States are going to get more.
I like it.
If you subscribe to HBO somehow, you're going to get more.
I like it. I already have Xbox and Kinect on my big TV that I watch movies on. And I don't use it as much as I use, let's say, the Roku box. I love the idea of having a very powerful set-top box that, for instance, I could pull up Facebook on, or maybe Facebook's always running on it, so when I watch a TV show, it tells all my friends that I'm watching Debbie Does Dallas. That would be cool.
Whoa.
We all make that mistake once.
Oh no! I will make it
watching it. But here's a video of Leo watching
exactly the outline of me. Never mind.
Here's a heat map of Leo watching it.
And you know, if it's possible, then I will do it by accident.
Because you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything you ever wanted to know.
Yeah, and more. 'Except, what's it called?
And how much is it?
1 million. 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 1 milli
And how much is it?
And when can you get it? We also still
Exactly.
Oh, do we not have even a date? But I'm excited. I don't even know.
Holiday season.
I'm excited. I want it.
I want it too.
By
I
the
just
way,
wish I could enunciate it better.
Ken Chabier in the chat room says I need to update my porn references. Apparently, that's quite an old movie. That's all right. I'm quite an old man.
It's Leo. It's good that you don't have updated.
I don't know what are the kids watching? I don't know.
Jeez. Now you're going to get the answer in the chat room. So congratulations.
The chat room. Yep.
I know. I'm sorry I brought it up. Yeah. I know. I hate to say it, Paul. I'm excited. And I know I will be disappointed in the long run. And so maybe by making it so open-ended and not giving me the details, which will ultimately be inevitably disappointing, they're getting me excited for no good reason.
If you had asked me 2 days ago which company could announce a product and not even name it, and people would still want it really bad, never would have said Microsoft.
That's true. It's
true. And there it is.
And there it is. It's back again. I almost hate to do this, Mary Jo, because this gets Paul really kind of riled up. And I need him to be calm for his flight later in the day. But
you do.
Microsoft, are they going to buy a Yahoo, Paul?
No.
They offered $31 a share not so very long ago, Paul.
I know. How much? $45 billion.
Yeah. And now it's worth, what, 1/10 of that?
Yahoo would go for 25 cents and a pencil at a yard sale.
I would buy it. I would buy it. Okay, I'll offer. What can we, Lisa, how much could we pay for Yahoo right now? Can we write a check?
Is almost unsellable.
$5,000? I'll write a check for $5,000. Jerry, David. Seriously.
Yahoo would have to significantly reduce their headcount and the size of the company before I think they would be a viable takeover target.
Aren't they just a content company? And does Microsoft want to be a content company at this point? Why be a content company?
Well, it is an odd-numbered year, so they might want to be a content company.
This is like the story that just won't die, right?
Horrible.
It keeps coming back over and over. And the one part of this week's rendition of this story that I thought was sort of believable was, might Microsoft buy parts of Yahoo instead of all of it? Would they want Flickr? Could they get just Flickr? Or could they get just, Yahoo Messenger and Mail? Would they want that? So that part seems sort of believable to me, that they might want parts and have the opportunity to bid on parts. But the whole thing, why? There's just absolutely no reason why.
And they would have to be awfully desperate to sell off in parts like that. It would be an acknowledgement that they
Especially the good parts.
Yeah. Here.
Well, think about it.
Exactly.
The only
what are
parts
they left
people want are the good parts, and what's left?
They got gravel.
But different companies might want different parts. Somebody might want the content parts.
It's like
Microsoft,
the connective tissue on a cow. You ever see one of those charts that has like all the pieces of meat you can get off of a cow?
New from Yahoo. Yahoo fascia.
Sorry, I'm a vegetarian. This metaphor is not working there.
Oh, sorry.
It's called tripe, Paul.
I like tripe.
Do you really?
I do. I'm talking more about the stuff that you could chew. You could chew it as long as you want, but you're never digesting it.
Mary Jo's going to throw up if we keep on like
Cud?
this.
I'm sorry.
Cud.
Sorry. I am going to France, so tripe is a possibility.
Tripe is a possibility. Lunch in France pretty much definitely includes tripe. So I think we could throw this rumor out. I don't know. Where did this rumor come from?
This week it was from Reuters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Why is it keep coming up?
I cannot believe that Microsoft would want to buy part of Yahoo. Thus, I fully expect to find out they bought them on Monday. But it just makes no sense.
It is more a testament to the incomprehensible ways of the tech giant.
Well, then there were two stories right after Reuters came out. One was on All Things D. One was on Bloomberg Business Week that said Microsoft's not even looking at them. And we've got sources saying this is so off base, we can't even believe they reported it. So there you go.
It's the new world of tech media.
Yeah. Reuters, yeah. Kind of leading blogger. Reuters says. The Metro interface. Microsoft's taken a big bet on the Metro interface. Did they? I want some clarification because they have now seems like back down a little bit because, for instance, at Build, they said, no, you will not be able to turn off the Metro interface. There will not be a on-off switch. And then shortly thereafter, they said, well, yeah, there will be. Does that mean?
Well, I don't know if that means you can do it as a consumer. I talked to a guy.
So it doesn't mean they were listening.
I'm not sure what part of Microsoft he was in. But anyway, I was told point blank that there would be group policy controls for the Metro style UI, and that one of those controls would be turning it off, just so people could roll out Windows 8 and Windows 7 together.
Deploy it in business, mostly.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to worry about it. There are companies who are going to have installed, will have us install by this point some number of Windows 7 desktops, so they don't want to have two completely different environments.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this week there were a couple of blog
lately
posts.
is they're sort of apologizing for it or making some concessions.
Although this week's blog posts were interesting. There were 2 blog posts on the Building Windows 8 blog about what they call the reimagined start menu, which is what we're calling the Metro interface, right? And they're, I know. Here we go. What's it called again? But what they were doing in those posts was defending and explaining why they did it the way they did it. And if you go in and read the hundreds of comments that are on there, a lot of people are saying, I don't care why you did it and how you did it. I don't want it.
Don't do it. But didn't the same thing happen with the ribbon interface, which, by the way, Steven Sinofsky also engineered?
And Jensen Harris.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Wasn't there exactly the same hue and cry?
Julie Larson Green, too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
same, a very, very similar thing.
the first of those 2 posts that she mentioned was about the history of the start menu.
I love this. From Windows 95
to
7.
There it is.
Yeah.
The second one sort of addressed some people's concerns. I mean, there are a number of things that I think people don't understand about the developer preview. The mouse stuff is not working correctly yet. There's some UI that is not done yet. There was something that Microsoft calls semantic zoom, which does not work in this build. And so they were saying that, yes, there will be a way to kill running tasks from within the Metro style UI. We just haven't implemented that yet, And yes, we're going to address your concerns. Some people have raised some issues, and they'll certainly between now and the final release will make some changes based on people.
Some of these stats in the first post are very interesting. For instance, according to their instrumentation, 75% users have 2 or fewer apps pinned.
Right.
75% have 2 or fewer. See, we're power users.
Right.
So we are not obviously very typical. Now, that's on the start menu. I've got lots of stuff pinned on the start menu. Taskbar, more people have stuff pinned on the taskbar. But still, it's more than half have fewer than 4. So, people are not using Windows in the same way that perhaps the 3 of us use Windows.
I think the hard part here, too, is, they've got over 1 billion users of Windows.
Right.
So even to extrapolate from any kind of statistics, you're always going to find people who don't use it the way they think you're using it, right?
And the median or the average is not necessarily the thing to aim at.
Yeah.
But it's quite a challenge. I mean, this is a big challenge.
It's hard. I've shown this thing off in a couple of user group meetings, and it's hard today because the only thing you can really run on it are some fairly lame sample apps, demo apps, and then the regular Windows apps that we all know and love, and those don't necessarily mesh very well with this new desktop, or new start screen. So you have to sort of imagine a future, and I think it's going to happen pretty quickly, to be honest. I think what we're going to see is that the Windows Store will open well before Windows 8 ships, so that people running the beta version of the OS will be able to download and even, in some cases, buy applications that run in this new environment, and then you'll be able to see how it works really, because today you're using it to run old stuff because that's kind of all it does, and it makes it hard. I mean, the reason they released that, remember, was so developers would be able to develop applications.
But you can't change, and for that reason, you can't change it too much because developers are developing to it. Right. And they were assured, they were told very clearly, this is what it's going to be. You can develop for this.
They were, but we get into this weird cycle where people, power users will say, well, I am a power user. I will go and install this developer preview, and then I will install all of my classic apps, and then I will complain because this new UI doesn't work well. And it's kind of a dumb but predictable cycle that we get involved in. So,
I like this paragraph. Alive with activity. Sinopsky writes,
Right, kind of like my trash bin.
yeah, as we
With activity.
analyzed Windows systems, listen, we found that the average PC is cluttered with a large array of system tray notifications, a long list of folders and shortcuts for installed software, applets in numerous places in the system, all begging for your attention. So they, I guess, are trying to make sense of that? Are they trying to reduce that complexity? Or just put them all on big tiles that dance around at you?
You know, the thing about the first post, I think it was this week, that made me the happiest was they said, we know the scrolling with a mouse isn't really working the way it should. And we're going to fix that by the beta. You're not going to have to find that little mini bar and put your mouse cursor there and move it.
Yep,
So that's good. Okay, they're listening. There's hope.
Right. Well, and they probably shouldn't have had to even say that, because that's, you know, really that's what they've been saying. This is a developer preview. This isn't.
Yeah, but although Paul and I have talked about this on the show before, you know, how much will they change it? Like, how much is it actually going to be allowed to be changed is up for debate, you know?
Right.
I think the basics are set in stone. I mean, it's going to be like Windows 7.
They've really simplified my Windows 8 desktop now, I tell you. And all the tiles have been turned off.
It's a non-distraction desktop.
It's coming up. I'm running it.
Leo, here's what you can do today. Enjoy your computer.
I'm getting, I'm getting kind of used to Metro, I have to say, and I'm sure once I start using a Windows Phone, I will get more and more used to it, and maybe won't mind it so much in the desktop. I don't show my green screen. It's not Windows 8's fault. It's that I'm, or maybe it is actually the start menu.
It's probably a little of both.
There it is. Oh, thank goodness. So this,
I'll tell you, using Windows 8, I wish Windows Phone looked like this. You know, one of the questions I asked those guys, the very first time I sat down with them and had a phone in my hand, I said, can these tiles all be different colors?
Yeah, love that.
And I said, no. Why would anybody want that?
I used to distinguish.
But you know it's coming, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you know the next version of Windows Phone, the next major version, will offer this style of customization. You'll be able to double wide the tiles or minimize them to a single tile or whatever. I mean, you know it's coming. You know it's going to look just like that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see how much they change based on input.
Yep.
They're going to get. It's very difficult because they're going to get all the people who hate it talking.
Yep.
And you don't want to design something based on that.
Based on the haters, yeah.
The haters going to hate. Play is going to play.
Yep.
Leo going to do a commercial. And we'll continue with Windows Weekly. Just above it, ladies and gentlemen, Mary Jo Foley, Paul Thurrott. And let me give you a little, shall I tease the next story? I will as soon as I can find it. It's disappeared on me.
What's the next story called?
If I weren't using Macintosh, I could figure this out. We'll talk more about Apple. That'll make you happy. Haters.
Yay.
Haters. Actually,
send your emails
I
to
think since we're
Thurrott.
talking about phone, we'll talk about that iPhone 4S and your opinion that it might actually help Windows Phone. I think you might not be too far off on this one. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit about Go to Assist Express from the great folks at Citrix. I know a lot of people who watch the show are in IT, in support. Even those of us who are just geeks and have to help family and friends with their computers could very well take advantage of this. Go to Assist Express. No matter what, if you're a support person, you and your clients have one thing in common. You both want the job done right, and you want it done fast. And that doesn't mean getting on the phone with Dad and saying, click start. Go to the programs menu. Okay, now I want you to see if you can find. That's no fun. What you want to do is say, Dad, here's a link. Click that link. 30 seconds later, you're in there, you're fixing it, you move on with your life. And so does your dad or your client or your customer. That's where Go to Assist Express is so amazing. Fast, easy to use, 128-bit SSL, so it's secure. Your clients, your support tees don't have to have it installed ahead of time. It takes just a few seconds to install, and you don't spend any time supporting the support tool. That's the last thing you want to do. It just goes. And they've got features that you will really appreciate. An assay of what the operating system is right down to the dot, right? Security software, anything running in the background. It'll tell you all of that. It'll also give you 8 sessions at the same time, so you can start an install or a scan, move to the next one. drag a fix over from your computer to theirs, easy as pie. And unattended support. If your customers or your folks let you, you can go in there and fix their system anytime. All of that makes you more effective, makes you a support hero. I want you to try it right now for free. Go to the website, go to assist.com. See that big orange try it free button? Just click that right there. Hey, look, I clicked the try it free button. And fill in your name, your email address, and then the one most important thing you want to fill in, and that is Windows. You actually can go directly to go to assist.com/Windows. That might be the fastest way to do it. GOTO assist.com/Windows. Give it a try today for 30 days. Absolutely free. They have a monthly that's very affordable, but they also, for people who only do this once in a while, have a day pass, which I think a lot of you would be very interested in. Go to assist.com/Windows. So I think when Apple announced the iPhone 4S, a lot of people were hoping for more.
That's a good way to put it. Leo, I want to tell you something that I've been waiting to say.
Okay.
Waiting and waiting and waiting.
Okay.
And that is this.
What?
Mary Jo wrote this story, not me.
Thank you. So blame this lady right here.
Right. Don't send all the hate mail to Paul. Just send half.
Well, the first thing we noted, of course, immediately is that most of the highly touted new features merely gave them parity with the top-of-the-line Android phones out right now. Dual-core, gigabyte of RAM, the notification system, even the voice dictation, which is arguably the coolest thing in the new iPhone 4S, is really just maybe slight improvement. We'll have to wait and see over what's built into Android already. Maybe you could say the camera is going to be a lot better. I don't know. I mean, there are plenty of 8-megapixel and even 12-megapixel. Nokia has a great 12-megapixel phone out there, so I don't even know if the camera is going to be significantly better. It was Apple doing incremental improvements. So, and we're about to see these new Mango phones. When do we know when these new Mango phones come out?
Well, some. We don't know about Nokia.
That's the one, right?
But, yeah.
The N9 is the one we are, the N9 is the one that will not merely compete with the iPhone 4S, but will compete very strongly against these, really powerful Android phones like the Nexus Prime, which is going to come out next week.
The rumor date is, I think, November for a lot of the Nokia phones. There seem to be a bunch of them, or at least there's 1 million code names. I don't know if they're all relating to one or two phones, and there's like 6 code names floating around out there. But yeah, Nokia World's at the end of this month in London, so they're thinking they're going to announce them there, right? And then ship them in November.
Well, here's a hint, because remember we had Bradley on last week, and he gave me he gave me the Windows Phone Challenge.
Yep.
So I got an email from the PR people, and they said, we're not going to send you a phone yet. Wait.
Nice. Yeah. So, Mary Jo, were you with us when the Nokia guy flashed the phone at us? Were you there? Can't remember.
I was walking by. I saw it in the corner of my eye.
And he said it was
so it's I'm not going to be able to do this because my voice is a little off, but it was awesome. As close as I can get. I think the Nokia phone is going to change things pretty dramatically. And I think people who are waiting to buy a Windows Phone or people who want to upgrade are in somewhat of a holding pattern right now. And there are questions around which carriers they will be available on. I mean, I'm sitting here on AT&T and I'm waiting and waiting. And what happens when it comes out and it's Verizon and Sprint or something? So,
Verizon, be real. Come on, Verizon.
You never know. I'm just to use a carrier whose name I know.
We have one Windows Phone on Verizon still.
Yeah, so far.
Verizon apparently is going to have the exclusive on the Nexus Prime, which is very it's curvy and thin and 4.8 inches is big.
But the thing about the iPhone announcement this week that I think a lot of people were kind of breathing a sigh of relief after, at least people who are in Microsoft's camp. They were fearing the worst. They were thinking Apple's going to leapfrog us again and we're going to have to play catch up. And instead, they're like, oh, wow, okay, we're actually almost on parity, if not on parity with them.
It's almost like Apple just like taking a break. We're just gonna.
It's crazy. It's like getting the ball in football and saying, no, we're just going to punt.
You can catch up. Come on.
Yeah, it's very unlike them, and I can't quite explain it, and whatever. But obviously there's a gift involved to both Android and Windows Phone, and it's up to the people in those camps to make the most of it. Now we'll see what happens. But
I have a theory. I have a theory.
Yes.
And I think I'm trying to remember where I got this from because I stole it.
It was hopefully from me.
Some blogger wrote, and I think this is actually, now that I think of it, right. First of all, I was a little surprised because there's no styling update on the iPhone 4S. So there's no way to know if you're looking at somebody if they're using the old one or the new one, which is a huge mistake, right? Put fins on it or something.
It's a huge mistake. What if you want to, you're an Apple guy. You want to upgrade every single time. And here's a new device that looks just like the one you already have.
Huh?
Oh, come on. Apple gets that. They get that.
So this theory was that they are now going to be on a 2-year product cycle, so that this phone is for 3GS owners who will now have
This did come from me.
It did come from you. Okay.
Yep.
They'll have their 2-year cycle will have concluded now, so they can get this upgrade for free, and then next year they'll do the iPhone 5 for the iPhone 4
Which will be
users.
for 4s. Yep,
So it's going to go 2 years every year.
Well, it's like a leapfrog thing every year. Yep.
And that makes sense, but what it is it would be Apple saying with great confidence, don't worry about the other guy. People will always buy iPhones. We don't have to keep up. We just nearly need to pace this so that you'll keep upgrading.
This will be taken the wrong way, but an iPhone is now the safe choice in many ways.
Safe. There you go.
It's solid. I mean, unless you sit on it, in which case, it might snap.
Not so safe.
But it's
it could poke you.
You know what I'm saying. But it has an incredible ecosystem, not just of all the services we've already talked about, but the hardware add-ons, cases, all that stuff.
I agree, Paul. In fact, I've been for the last 6 months when people call the radio show and say, what should I buy? Yep. The safe thing to say, it's like nobody lost their job saying buy IBM.
Yeah.
Safe thing to say is,
and it sounds like a criticism, and it's not. You can't go wrong buying an iPhone.
Right.
There's no.
And what I tell people is, if you've never had a smartphone, get a Windows Phone because it's going to be the easiest to use. Once it catches up in terms of technology, which it may in Mango, then this is going to get a little muddied.
Yeah.
What's really good is the top of the line phones in all three operating systems are all pretty good, right?
Yeah.
I would say there's some parity between top of the line Android, top of the line iPhone 4.
I think if you're a tech guy and you have to have the very latest feature, whatever it is, LTE, NFC, whatever, Android is going to be that place. It's just always going to be that thing for the upper echelon tech guy.
Right.
Windows Phone's job, such as it is not to displace Android so much as it is to get parity with the iPhone. And I think technologically, I think they've done it. I think from a user experience standpoint, I think there's some advantages to Windows Phone. The hard thing is that ecosystem bit. Microsoft has made some inroads on the apps. I think that's a kind of a wash, frankly, for most people.
Unless there's that one app that you have to have.
Yeah, right, for most people. There are some interesting services advantages on Xbox. I'm sorry, on the Windows Phone. But yeah, the iPhone's a safe choice. Talking someone out of an iPhone is kind of a tough thing to do.
I don't do it anymore.
There's no reason to.
I've done it. In fact, I'll never live it down. I convinced Bill Handel, the morning man at KFI, to buy a Droid X, and he berates me every Friday morning.
Well, it's interesting.
And he says, I never figured it out, and I bought an iPhone.
Oh.
Right. So that's actually a good point. So Android, for all of its advanced stuff, can be kind of inscrutable.
It is inscrutable.
And I think, there are always exceptions, but by and large, people who buy iPhones are going to love an iPhone. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people who buy Android phones are going to be like, what happened here? You know what I think is becoming a weird advantage for Windows Phone in all this is if you're somebody who actually wants to use an overused phrase, think different, the best choice is Windows Phone.
It's funny.
That's true.
It is because Android and iPhone are very similar, really.
Right. I mean, when you
as
show
the Apple
people
lawsuits.
yeah, when you
underscore.
show your Windows Phone to people and they see the interface, they're like, "Wow, what is that?"
Yeah,
Right?
it's the one that looks
The other weird question I've gotten a lot this week for some reason, I mean literally by about a dozen people, is, variations on what does the Google services story look like on Windows Phone? In other words, I don't just use Gmail, Google Calendar, I use Picasso Web, and I use Google Reader, and I use this and that. How does that stuff work? And then you're like, it's not so good. It's not so good. Yeah, exactly. It's like the George W. Bush laugh from The Daily Show. There are third-party apps, for all those things, but of course they're of varying quality,
right.
And you don't see a lot of Google stuff on Windows Phone, which frankly shouldn't surprise anybody. But the truth is, if you're a heavy user of Google services, which by the way a lot of consumers are, that stuff's going to work best on Android. It works well on iPhone too. It's fair to mention, or should be mentioned, but obviously the best experience is going to be on Google's own device.
Where Windows Phone really succeeds is with heavy Xbox users because of the Xbox Live integration. Heavy Microsoft users. I wonder if Microsoft will take a page from the Apple playbook and start to create an ecosystem around Windows Phone that is really a closed Microsoft ecosystem. Zune Pass, Xbox Live.
Yeah. But if you do use that stuff, if you use SharePoint or SkyDrive,
you're happy.
That stuff
Outlook.
is awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is awesome.
Yep. Yeah. So maybe would that be the smart thing for Microsoft to do? They're kind of doing it.
No, honestly, I think the next step, and this is something I expected to see a long time before this, was opening up the services end to third-party integration so that someone like Flickr could come in and just integrate their service into the core of the OS so that when you clicked on a photo, one of the things that popped up was share with Flickr.
They need to do that.
Or that default save location for all photos.
Is that Microsoft's fault or is it Flickr's fault?
It's Microsoft's fault.
Okay, because they need to do that. Because that hub is great. I love the hub idea, but it has to work with everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And third parties, you don't expect Google to do it, but third parties would add that for Google services, and how awesome would that be?
Right.
You could access your documents that were up in Google Docs through the Office Hub.
Yeah. They're doing it through the People Hub, though, right? I mean, the People Hub's the one place they are doing that. That's where you can already link directly into Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
But those are things that Microsoft explicitly supports. In other words, they went out and rounded those people up. I guess the argument there would be they're hitting the high value targets first, and maybe each rev, they add things. So they had Facebook first, they had Twitter next. Maybe next time it's Flickr.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's what that whole API thing is that they have around Connect, right? That live Connect API that they're starting to get out there more broadly. I think that's going to be how they do that.
I hope so, because it's
yeah.
Obviously, what they have is great, but they just need more along those lines.
So does Windows Phone 7 take from Apple? Does it take from Android, or does it create a new market of new first-time smartphone owners?
That's a little of everything.
It's all of the above.
The market's growing. There's plenty of room. The market for smartphones is going to resemble the future market for personal computer devices, is going to resemble the future market for web browsers. And by that, I mean, there's not going to be this one dominant company and then a couple of little also-rans. It's going to be this kind of heterogeneous thing with probably 3 major players with varying degrees of market or usage share. And I think that Windows Phone will probably be third in that list or whatever, but I think it won't be as one-sided or 2-to-1 as it is now.
Yeah. But I think their definite feeling and plan is to go after people who've never had a smartphone. Like that's where Tango, the next version's aimed at. That's why they're doing all this stuff.
Because you're never going to convert an iPhone guy to Windows Phone ever.
You're not.
No.
Yeah.
You might convert an Android guy.
Yeah, because by definition, those guys are leading edge technology adopters and the types of people who might do that.
We're not loyal. Make a better phone, I'll buy it.
No, but I don't mean that in a bad way.
No,
I mean,
I'm that guy.
You're willing to try new things.
I bought an iPhone and was really loyal till the Android got better. I bought a G1 and was horrible, and I stayed with the iPhone. And then as Android got better and better, by the time the Droid came out, I made the move. Now I feel like with the Samsung Galaxy S2, I've got the top-of-the-line phone, and I'll be very, as good as the next Apple phone. And I'm looking forward. I hope I get an N9. That would be the one I'd like to try. I might buy that when it comes out. Just buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just buy it because then I'll have the 3. And when it rings,
I'll switch carriers if I have to get it. I mean, I'm ready.
Right. You don't think it'll be Verizon?
I don't know who
It'd be
it's going to
ATT,
be.
you think?
Who knows? Nokia has no foothold in this country at all. There's no way to know
Just true.
who they're going to be
You
at.
know what?
There's
I'd be happy if
real
they sold an
precedent.
unlocked GSM version of it.
Yeah,
I'll take that. In fact, I'm
I'll
sure
take
they
that
will.
too.
I'm sure they will.
that'd be great.
Yeah. Because you're going to move to London, aren't you?
No,
Yes, you are.
no, I'm not.
We can now say officially, we knew it was happening. It's not a surprise. But we can just shed a tear for the Zune HD.
This story is so frustrating.
Yeah,
It was a good little device, but why is it frustrating, Mary Jo? There was no way they were going to beat the iPod.
No,
In fact,
it's
the
frustrating.
iPod's dead.
It's frustrating because of how badly they handled the communication around this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
which is weird
you know,
because they're usually so good at communicating.
yeah, exactly.
Does Microsoft is it still use WagEd? Is it Wagner Edstrom that is all of it, and then that's their out of house company, and then they do
No, they have
Actually,
other.
like
no.
40 different companies, don't they?
I think Zune is under Edelman, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is, yeah. But this isn't even so much a PR fiasco as it was a support fiasco because they posted up this page this week that didn't have any mention of Zune devices, so everyone started screaming, "Oh, that's it, it's over." Then they put that page back up with the Zune devices. then Zune support posted something saying, "As we told you already, we've decided not to make any more Zunes." That was on their support page.
Which was beautiful
Then
because they had never told anyone that, actually.
No. And then they took that page down and said that was a mistake that they had put that page up. So right now, we don't really know if it's official still that they aren't making them. But I would say after all this, it's got to be.
I can tell you that I've been told repeatedly that Zune product hardware design and development disappeared 2 years ago.
Yeah. Right.
This has been
2 years. They haven't done anything. 2 years.
Yeah, well, as soon as they released the Zune HD, those guys were scattered to the wind. That was that.
But I think some people thought maybe it would be like the PC market and some OEMs would take over Zune HD production and come out with Zune HD 3 or whatever it would be, right?
I'd love to see that. And I know a lot of people would. Although I'm not sure what that means.
People they use their phone. It's really obvious. I mean, they just missed it. They missed the
I don't.
You don't? You still use a standalone device?
Yep, I do.
So,
and a few other people I know do as well.
Yeah.
Because, okay, when you go to the gym, do you really want to use your phone?
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know.
Or, you're on a flight and you're going across the country.
Right.
That's why Apple
you want to make
still
sure your
sells in
phone's
the
working
house.
on the other side.
That's why
Are
Apple
you
still
really going
sells
to use it
Nanos.
on the plane?
Yeah.
It's it's a tough thing.
It's a dying market, though. It's not the vital market. I mean, even Apple is basically not selling as many iPods as they used to.
For all the email I get about this topic, I know you just know it's a fact. If Microsoft suddenly announced today, we're going to make a Zune HD 2, it's going to be based on Windows Phone, it's going to be everything but the phone, and they would release this thing, all those people who were complaining about it would be so happy,
right.
And then they would sell 200,000 units, and that would be it.
Right.
And that's the unfortunate truth that
would be their iPod Touch.
This device.
It would be their iPod Touch.
But it would be their no-selling iPod Touch. Right? No, I mean, that's really what it is. I'm sorry that's, if reality is harsh, but that's the truth.
I no longer carry an iPod or any other device. I use if I want music, it's on my phone. I do have an iPod in my car that just goes around with me. But even at the gym, I listen on my phone.
Well, I could make a case for the iPhone, except that they don't remove the battery. If there was a way to carry a second battery, an iPhone 4S with 64 gigs of storage would be fantastic.
Many of us do. We carry those little external cases like the...
yeah, I guess you could do that instead, yeah. Yep.
Hotmail, more new spam fighting stuff coming before the end of the year.
Woohoo!
Hey.
It's good, though. This actually is good stuff. This is their whole let's combat gray mail. Gray mail is that stuff you get that some people think it's spam, some people think it's not spam.
You signed
like
up for it, but a long time ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to help you better manage your inbox, sweep all that stuff out, get rid of it. It's all good stuff, and it's good to see Hotmail isn't just sitting around for 2 or 3 years till they do their next rev, unlike some of the other Windows Live services.
Some of which actually have cobwebs on them.
Yeah. But Hotmail and SkyDrive are revving very regularly now, which is good. That's what they're supposed to be doing since they're a service and not software, right?
Exactly. And this is way better than that Waves metaphor they were using for several years where, once a year or once every 18 months, they would release, updates to all of their services and products. I'd rather see these things update organically as required, and I'm glad they're doing this kind of thing.
Well, the part, though, that was interesting, because they had a big event here in New York and San Francisco this week, and the thing that I came away with, which was the big realization, is there still is the wave metaphor happening, but it's only for certain live services. It's for the ones that are in that bundle called Live Essentials, right? So that's photo gallery and live mail, parental controls, a few other things. So they're still on the every couple years rev schedule. But the ones that don't have a software downloadable component, like Hotmail and SkyDrive, they're going to be revving way more constantly. So that's good.
I wish the apps were revving more constantly too, though. Supposedly the point of taking them out of Windows was that they could update them more frequently, but they're really not updated very frequently at all, are they?
No, they are not.
It's too bad.
We're going to take a break. We're going to get rid of, not get rid of, that's kind of harsh. We're going to let Paul go in a few minutes because he has to get on the plane.
We're just going to pull the plug, really.
We're going to stop all of this Paul nonsense. But before we do, I want to get a recommendation for you from Audible.com. Audible.com is it, as far as I'm concerned. I don't buy books. I listen to books. I don't read books. I listen to books, and I get them from Audible.com. 75,000 titles. Pretty much now, anytime a new book comes out, it's available on Audible.com. I'm listening to so many great books, right? I literally have 3 Audible books going at once. There's so much great material here. What I want you to do is sign up for Audible. You'll be signing up for the gold plan. Now, wait a minute. It's free for the first month at audible.com/windows. You'll get a book. You get a book every month with the gold plan. And you can cancel before you owe anything, and you'll get to keep that book forever. So it's a free book. Audible.com. What happened? It went away. Audible.com/windows. And Paul, your recommendation? You have
Actually, it's funny. I've been holding on to this one for weeks, but if you look at this book on Audible, it's almost 29 hours long.
Holy moly!
And it's one of the biggest books I've ever read. It's called The Storm of War: A New History of the Second World War. And
I'm putting it down now. I love World War II histories.
I just finished another book about World War II, and obviously at this point in time you would think we've read everything there is to be read about World War II, but this book is full of new information, which is what makes it fascinating, and it covers the Pacific part of the war equally to the European part.
Yeah, usually it's the European front.
Yeah, it's really a British historian, I believe, who wrote it. But
fantastic.
It is an amazing book. And you'd have to really sort of understand World War II to know or to be able to pick out some of the little details that are in there. But every so often there'll be this little tidbit where you say, wait a minute, what? There's clearly some amazing new information in here, and it's worth it, especially if you are just involved with this stuff like I am. Well, you'll appreciate some of the new details that come out in here, and it's just a fascinating book. It's great. Absolutely great.
So here's what you do when you hear us talk about a book, and if you're already an Audible member, you could just press this add to wish list. And that's how I keep track of the books. And you can see if you look at my wish list, it's very, very long. These are all the books I wish I could get right now. Well, get one free. You got to pick one by going to audible.com. This is my wish list. Oh, boy, it's kind of long. These are all great books, though, and many of them recommended by many of our hosts, including Paul, because you know what? We all love Audible. Good Lord, this list is getting long. I better start listening to some books here. Audible.com/windows. Pick a book.
I'll be falling asleep to a book over the Atlantic tonight. I can guarantee that.
What are you going to listen to on the plane?
Actually, it's going to be Solaris.
That's perfect for a flight because that's about 8 hours.
I never remember the guy's actual name, but it's read by
Stanislaw Lem.
Well, but it's read by the guy from Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
I can't even remember his character's name either. Some terrible.
Gaida, is it?
Gaida, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really good.
Yep.
I've been listening. I'm done with it, but I've been listening to it. That's the one I listen to in the gym. That's one of the 3 I have. I have American Gods, a dramatization of the great book from Neil Gaiman. I have Solaris. I'm listening to that. And I can't remember what the third one is, but I love having a bunch of books to listen to.
Yeah. Yep.
Audible.com/Windows. Enjoy. We're going to give Paul the week off because he's feeling a little sick. He doesn't feel so good. And I don't know, Mary Jo, do you have an enterprise pick of the week or you want to skip two?
I have a codename pick of the week and I have a rumor pick of the week.
Ooh, let's get the code name and then we'll do the rumor.
Okay. So the codename pick of the week is Lakeside.
Lakeside or Lakeview?
Lakeside. Sorry, Lakeview. Lakeview supposedly has to do with the Xbox TV, live TV service that shall not be named.
See, it has a name.
Lakeview.
It's Lakeview.
Finally.
Lakeview, is supposedly the underlying platform that has to do with Silverlight, even though Microsoft won't talk about that, that is enabling all of this live TV to happen on the Xbox. So, yeah, I don't know a lot else about it, except that I've got it from two people that is the code name.
Lakeview.
So
I'm actually potentially excited about this potential rollout. Potentially.
That we know nothing about.
That's a nice way of hedging your bets there.
Potentially, I could be excited.
I could in some date in the future be excited about something I'm not sure about yet.
But what's its name and how much does it cost?
And when can we get it?
And when can we get it? Rumor time.
Okay, so this is something I'm just trying out this week, rumor pick of the week.
No, I like that. I want you to do that all the time. I love that.
Okay. So this is a rumor from a friend of Paul and mine's site, Honora Amobi, Windows8update.com. A couple weeks ago, or maybe just about 10 days ago, he had a really interesting rumor on his site saying that when Microsoft comes out with the beta of Windows 8, there's likely going to be one or more tablet makers that are in cahoots with them. And they're going to come out with tablets that have the beta preloaded on it. And that people will have the opportunity to buy these tablets for money for some subsidized rate. And that they will be upgradable to the final Windows 8 when it comes out. So this is supposedly the plan for getting tablet devices. We don't know if it's Intel tablets or ARM tablets or both in beta testers' hands so that they can really try out Windows 8 on a tablet device.
That's
awesome.
Great. What a good idea. If they don't do it, they should. It should be $99 though, right?
Yeah, it should be something fairly cheap. And so the reason I thought this rumor,
tablet market works.
you know why I thought this tablet rumor was very believable though, and Paul was probably going to remember this. A couple months back, there was a rumor that Dell, there was a leaked roadmap, and Dell had this device called the Peiju tablet that was supposed to come out in January 2012, running Windows 8. And so we all thought it was a mistake. You know, we said, oh, they're not going to be out with Windows 8 in 2012. But what if it's this tablet?
Actually, you're right. That tablet sparked rumors that, oh, maybe Windows 8 is going to come a lot quicker than we think. And, you know, people are like, well, that doesn't make sense, you know.
Yes. So this could be real.
Yeah.
This could be true. And that's a Dell tablet running Windows 8.
I could be potentially getting excited about the potential of this one, I have to tell you.
Potentially.
Yes. Yes,
Perhaps.
potential.
It might.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good rumor. I like that one. He said he hasn't got it confirmed, but that's why it's a rumor. But still pretty interesting and pretty believable, I think.
Mary Jo, you know that you are wearing Christmas colors.
I do. You know, well,
it's sort of a communist-looking kind of thing, really.
Oh, it's red ale. Oh, okay.
Red ale.
Because the chat room says you are a spitting image of an elf.
I am.
Really?
From, what was the name of the movie?
Or a
chat room?
commissar.
A commie elf. A commie elf, Mary Jo. But they wanted you to say something in an elf voice. What was the
wow.
Was it Elf?
No.
It was the movie Elf. It was the elf that says, come on, the store is closing or something like that. What was it that she's supposed to
will not do
She
that.
won't do it?
But
Come on.
I'll tell you the significance of the shirt. The shirt is very interesting to people who live in Seattle, actually.
Take down the lower third so we can see it. Red ale. No, not
Red
you.
ale.
Not you. That was a message to.
Georgetown Brewing. So the folks in Seattle may know, who are into craft beer like I am, that Georgetown Brewing is one of the best craft beer breweries in Seattle. It's in the Georgetown neighborhood near Boeing Field. And Red Ale, Chopper's Red Ale is one of their signatures. This is a shirt from there.
You're quite the connoisseur of suds, aren't you?
I am. I love craft beer. That's my next career.
Really?
Craft beer blogging for sure. After this
This is
Microsoft
another
thing doesn't.
partnership that Mary Jo and I are going to pursue in the future.
Beer
Except Paul
cast.
doesn't
We could do
drink
a beer
beer.
podcast. I'd love to do that.
Oh, that would be a blast doing
Yeah.
a craft podcast.
Can I say
sign me
one
up.
thing,
It would go
though?
downhill, though, because over the course of the show, it would become less and less, I don't know,
Coherent?
coherent.
Yes.
And another thing,
Ironic,
right,
isn't it?
Joe?
Paul has to get off his no carb diet before we do that.
Oh, that's true. Oh, it's called dignation. It's been done. You're right, Truckee. It's been done.
Yeah.
Mary Jo Foley is at allaboutmicrosoft.com. And you can read her posts, her plosive posts frequently, like every 5 minutes. If you want to keep up on what's going on in that quarter of the woods, read Mary Jo. Allaboutmicrosoft.com. A ZDNet blog. We also thank Mr. Paul Thurrott, who's about to head to across the pond, as they say. Paul is the editor-in-chief of the SuperSite for Windows, winsupersite.com, the author of Windows 7 Secrets, Windows Phone Secrets is soon to be Windows 8 Secrets, I'm sure, but it's a secret. Otherwise, I'd say it. And,
I don't think there'll be a single secret left by the time the book is
we're going
published.
to know everything. Have a great trip, Paul, and tune in next week. You know what you do is you go to TWiT Live. We have a calendar on there, and watch the schedule, and we'll let you know as soon as Paul knows what day we're going to do Windows Week.
It's going to be Friday.
Oh, it's done.
Yep.
Okay.
I believe it's Friday at 11 PT,
Okay.
I think.
11 a.m. Pacific, which is, of course, 2 p.m. Eastern and 1800 UTC, a.k.a. I think it's 1900 British Standard Time. So 7 in the evening.
I'm going to be in rare form next week, so that should be great.
Should be in a pub.
That'd be awesome. We
that be
could
good?
both go to a pub with our microphones.
That's a great idea. The pub version.
Next time I'm in New York, we should do the live podcast from a pub.
Rattle and hum.
Yeah.
Mary Jo knows all the best places. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We do Windows Weekly normally every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC on twit.tv. But you know what? You don't have to watch live because we make it available after the fact in audio, in video, in every form you could possibly desire at twit.tv/dubdub. You go there and you'll find Windows Weekly. You know what I don't plug enough? We also have an audio stream. So if you can't watch live, you can also listen live at twit.am. That works in Winamp on Windows, works in Windows Media Player, I'm pretty sure. iTunes.
Is it in iTunes?
Oh, yeah. It's not in, I mean, I don't know if we're listed in iTunes, but if you just go to iTunes and, you can open
The
a
radio
channel,
part?
Go to the radio part and go to twit. I think if you do twit.am/listen is what you should do in iTunes. Is that right? Paul, John's nodding his head.
Is it a Zune podcast as well?
It is, of course. Thanks to Rob Greenlee. You bet. Of course. Are you kidding me? It's a highly recommended Zune podcast.
Excellent.
Yes. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week on Windows Weekly. I won't. I'll be on the beach.
Where are you going? Are you going away?
Yeah.
I'm going to the beach, going to San Diego to lie in the sun.
Oh, nice.